So as you know, President Trump expected on Friday or Saturday to nominate a replacement for Justice Ginsburg. So give me a sense from you. Doesn't he have the same obligation as President Obama did, and you advocated for in 2016, to nominate someone even in an election year?
Not once voting is started. I taught constitutional law for over 20 years. The Constitution suggests that the public gets one chance to decide what the court looks like. And that's when they elect a president and they elect a Senate. We're in the middle of an election. By the time that vote comes up, if it comes up, there will have been close to 40% of people have already voted. It's a violation of the spirit of the Constitution to suggest that he should not wait until the outcome of the election. If in fact he wins and maintains the Senate, he should go ahead and make his appointment and keep that appointment whoever he wants and make the case. If he loses, then that appointment gets pulled down, and I get an opportunity in January, the end of January, early February, to make that appointment.
So how's it any different, though, from 2016?
2016, there were 9 months left to go.
But it was election year.
No, but it was election year. It wasn't in the midst of an election. There's a big difference. This never happened before. In the midst of an election going on right now, and if you look at the polling data you guys often cite to me, the vast majority of the American people think it shouldn't happen now. They should wait to see. Let the people make their judgment.
So you said during the debates that you would be interested in naming an African-American woman to the Supreme Court.
I will.
Would that be your first choice, and who's on that list?
It is my first choice. I have a number of people on that list, but it is inappropriate for me to name that list for 3 reasons. As a constitutional matter, you should not be, because some of these people are on the court. If I name the list, it puts them in a very difficult position, because then any judgment they make about how they rule will be put in limbo. That is, did they make that judgment because they're on the list? Number one. Number two, it will allow them to be the target of all the vitriol or all the examination that occurs between now and the end of January without any way to defend themselves. And number three, what he's doing here is trying to change the subject. He wants the discussion about who I would appoint.
Should voters know? Should voters know who you're going to appoint?
No, they don't, but they will. If I'm elected, they'll know in plenty of time.
Let me ask you about, because I did mention Lambeau Field. This Sunday, Lambeau Field was empty. No fans allowed on the game. That cost millions of dollars to a community the size of Green Bay, at bars and restaurants and all of that. So if you were president, if you're managing this crisis, what guidelines would you offer small businesses in Green Bay and Milwaukee on how to manage this to stay open safely? And would you rule out ever locking down or shutting down the economy again?
Now look, no one shut the whole economy down ever. Here's the problem. The president knew how dangerous this virus was. You heard him on tape with Bob Woodward saying he knew how dangerous it was. He knew how easily it could spread. He didn't say a word. He could have put us in a position where we saved thousands and thousands of lives and taken the action that should have been taken in the first place, making sure that all the PPE, all this protective gear was available to people, putting restaurants in a position where they could safely open by providing everything from sanitary situations, sanitary operations, making sure there were in some places plexiglass, and making sure that you could limit the spread of the disease. He did none of that, and he knew. Why didn't he do it?
So what would you do?
What I would do is make sure three things. Number one, I've laid out back in April exactly what I do to reopen. I get testing on track. There is no real testing now as it relates to how it's happened. Within 24 hours, you should be able to get the test back. So do that rapidly, testing and tracing. Number two, make sure all the protective gear is needed. Right here in your state of Wisconsin, you have hospitals saying they're running out of protective equipment, the protective gear they need. Number three, do what the House passed, and he has moved, I won't use the word, he has messed up, and that is that allowing small businesses to stay open by giving them the ability to keep employees on the payroll, and when they open, allowing them to have the wherewithal to be able to open. in terms of sanitary conditions, in terms of being in a position where ventilation is the right ventilation, making sure they have the protective gear for their employees. That's what I would be doing. I would have done a long time ago.
One final question for you. Under education, you would triple Title I funding, and you said you want to build the best and most innovative schools in low-income neighborhoods and communities of color. But as you know, Milwaukee is the birthplace for choice. Do you think parents should have the choice on where to send their schools, or their kids to school, whether that be a public school, a private school, or a charter school, and let the money follow the child?
Look, I'm a product of 12 years of Catholic education. The idea that taxpayers would pay for my education is contrary to basic religious principles. They'd be able to control things then, and contrary to public interest. The public schools are first and foremost means by which we can guarantee the education of everyone. Charter schools that are specialized, like charter schools for music, charter schools for mathematics, charter schools, though, as long as they meet the same conditions that public schools have to do in terms of the transparency and they're not for profit, then I have no problem with that. But I do have problem with choice if you mean paying for private education that isn't responsible to the same standards that is required of public schools.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for your
Thank
time. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
They're really showing themselves to do really well. Come on, man.